What's going on, guys? It is Wednesday, October 23rd. This week on the podcast, Dennis Lewis joins me to discuss his new book, Behold the Cryptopreneurs. Dennis definitely has a unique take on the crypto industry right now and where it's heading, and he has a very good way of analyzing how these projects need to develop to get to their full potential. It's a great episode, so be sure to share it with your friends, family, colleagues, anyone that you think needs to learn more about blockchain. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Enjoy.
This is the BlockHash Podcast.
So, Dennis, nice to have you on. How you doing? How's your Monday going?
Going really well. Thanks for having me on, Brandon.
Absolutely. For the audience, for the people that'll be listening to this, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, your background, how you kind of got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, it all started a long time ago in a far off place just 30 miles from Roswell, New Mexico. Actually, that's where I was born, in a little town called Artesia. And I always like to start off saying anything weird that happens or that I say is it's all because of the aliens. So that gives you a good starting point. Now, going back a little bit more seriously, yeah, I am the CEO of Greenlight Digital. We run a boutique blockchain marketing consulting firm. We've worked with quite a number of projects over the last few years. We've raised about 50 million for different projects. And my goal is to help solid projects get out there and tell their stories in a compelling way that generates enthusiasm while avoiding all of the other riffraff that is obviously abundant in our industry.
What kind of projects have you taken on with Greenlight?
Well, we've worked with quite a few projects. Some have been more successful than others. We've built big communities. We've built huge bounty programs. We've done all sorts of investor outreach. We've done the full suite of services for projects. I don't really, I'm not here really to plug the different projects that we've worked on, but
Right.
Anybody who wants to go to icosuccess.com, they can definitely see some of our clients. With that in mind, though. One of the things that I've really started to be frustrated with in the last several months, and which led me, and we'll talk later about the book, is that it's really frustrating to see two things going on. One, to see projects that are all over the place raising lots of money and aren't delivering on their promises. And, that could be because of poor intention by the founders, or it could be because of a lot of other factors. And we could talk about those if you like. And then the other thing is there are projects out there that are solid and that have really good teams and that are working to solve real problems for real people. And, they're struggling to actually earn a place in the marketplace. So I think both things are equally, frustrating. And I think those are the sort of questions we need to be answering as an industry right now.
Absolutely. And I think that stuff has definitely been a major contributing factor in terms of plaguing this industry the last few years, especially with what we had with the ICOs back in 2017, and then having a lot of projects pop up out of nowhere with very questionable standards. And I think you get this contrast between which projects are fake and which projects are real. And it's very hard for a lot of people to discern. So I guess my question for you is, how do you kind of look at these projects and determine which ones are fake versus which ones are real? Do you look at the founders? Do you look at the technical stuff? How do you view it?
So that's a great question. And I don't want to come out here and say I'm the answer to everybody's questions, because that would be presumptuous of me. The truth is, fake projects, scams, to me, that's the second biggest problem we have. And we can talk about that a little bit more in depth, because I think the first biggest problem is another problem that I've witnessed on the inside of a lot of projects. And it's not necessarily that the founders and the team members don't want to deliver. is that they lack the entrepreneurial skills. They lack the good old fashioned street cred, how to build a business skills to actually make their projects sustainable and make them able to deliver on the ideas that they have. Because a good idea is just not enough to build a solid project on. You have to know so many other things. You have to know how to manage your money. You have to know how to manage your team, how to motivate people, how to tell your story in a way that gets people enthusiastic. And there's so many different aspects to running a solid project. And I think that that's where so many founders flounder, if you want, to make a play on words there. The founders flounder because they may know enough about blockchain. They may be technical wizards. They may, have an amazing technical background, but being a good engineer doesn't make you a good entrepreneur. And it definitely doesn't make you a good cryptopreneur. And that's what I wrote the book about, because I really believe we need cryptopreneurs that have a much more well-rounded, holistic view of how to actually build a project that's sustainable and it actually makes a difference in the world.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you are writing a book really revolving around that topic, because it is a huge issue where there are a lot of very smart people and there's a lot of people with good intentions too in the crypto and blockchain space that are building projects that just don't have those business skills, that don't have the skills of an entrepreneur that make projects and businesses successful. And I mean, you can see this like very early on back in Silicon Valley too. I mean, there's a lot of like really smart guys walking into business meetings with their hoodies that are coders that don't know really anything about business, that are just looking for money. And I think you get a lot of similar people in this crypto industry too. You get a lot of people that are very technical, that are very good at coding, that are as nerdy as I am, that but just don't understand the business side of it. So it's very cool that you're writing a book that really kind of grasps that perspective of the industry.
Well, I did it because I've seen it. I mean, this is an eyewitness account of so many things that I've witnessed in my own, my own flesh and blood. I've seen it on the inside of these projects. I've seen projects die because they raised too much money. I've seen projects die because the CEO might have been smart, but he had absolutely no idea how to build a team and how to keep a team together and make them work together. I've seen projects die because the founders, once they had some money, they were at each other's throats until it was all gone. There's so many things that happen and it's really kind of depressing because, all these cases I'm talking about, and I'm not naming names, but they had promising stories. They had promising ideas. They weren't stupid, but they lacked these skills. They lacked, there's a chapter in the book that talks about something that's terribly unsexy, but it's terribly, terribly important, which is accounting. How many projects, crash and burn, not because they can't raise some money, because some of them have raised, boatloads of money, but they don't know how to keep track of it. They don't know how to administer it correctly. Or, suddenly you've got this, this young guy in a hoodie, like you said, and I think that's funny. I wrote a post not long ago about the Zuckerberg paradox, and we can talk about that if you want. They suddenly think they've got to be Warren Buffett, because now they've got to administer all this capital they've raised. And they rush off and they put money into this project, into that project, and they think they're being wise custodians of, the money they've been, that token investors have put in their hands. And they wake up 3 months later and it's all gone. And they say, oh, damn, how am I going to make my project now? Because that's not their skill set. And that's a really terrible thing to give, give a 25-year-old in a hoodie, give him $25 million, and, all sorts of bad things can happen.
It's also difficult because a lot of these projects are very decentralized or open source, and there's not always a formal structure behind them too. So you get just a group of engineers that give themselves titles, or a group of people that don't necessarily understand business or economics, or they're primarily focused on this new token economics, that just don't know how to grow the project as a business, that don't know how to keep an eye on its valuation and to keep an eye on the finances and that whole aspect of it. It's definitely an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, in the post I wrote the other day, and I thought it was funny, I said that I started off saying I think no single human being alive has done more to harm progress for humanity than Mark Zuckerberg. I said that not because Facebook is a humongous behemoth that doesn't care about its users, which it definitely might be, but because of the myth that his start has created. This idea that this, dreamy-eyed kid in a dorm room is going to come in and disrupt every industry in the world and make, and make miracles happen. And the fact that he built an enormous creature, which is called Facebook, only makes that myth harder to makes it cements it in our psyches, and that's not really the way long-lasting, solid businesses are built. I mean, they're usually built by people with, some gray hair on their heads, like me. They've gone through the cycle various times. They've lost their shirt, a couple of times. They've lived the experience that you need to be able to later build a real decent project. And we need more people like that in this industry, because the promise is there. I'm as enthusiastic and as gung-ho about blockchain technology as I've ever been. And I've been around for a long time. But, we're not going to deliver on that promise unless, we get over these problems. And part of it is, we can't be exclusively thinking about trading and token prices and market caps. I mean, that can't be our focus. This industry needs to be focused on solving problems like healthcare, solving problems for democracy, solving problems for, making supply chains more efficient, solving problems for your local coffee shop, if that's what you want to do, but solving real problems. And the technology will do that if we empower it to be that solution. But if we're always thinking about, can we, build a project that hits $1 billion market cap on CoinMarketCap, that's the wrong focus. That's not going to get us where we need to.
Exactly. And so what is the solution? How do we get to that point where we have better projects that are more informed, with better structure and with better founders? Like, is this like an educational issue in your opinion, or is this just focused on the wrong aspects and the wrong topics? Like, is it just focused too much on money? Like, how do we shift that focus towards the technological side of it, to growing it properly, to something that's more like entrepreneurial in nature, or whatever comes to mind in your opinion? How do we make that shift and solve this problem that we've been talking about?
Yeah, it's a great question. But let me before I give you my opinion on that, let me ask you a question. Do you think that if you look at all the projects since maybe mid 2017 until right about now, do you think that the interests of the token purchasers were aligned with the interests of the token sellers, of the founders of the project?
Absolutely not. Just because there's been so many of them that have ripped people off and that have produced absolutely nothing. With that said, I do believe there are a very small percentage of them that had good intentions, but in general, it was a huge issue that blew up.
Yep. And that, I think, is the core of the core problem. And one of the things that I talk about in depth in the book is precisely how can we take the decentralized, the technology that we have at our disposal, and use it in a way that aligns the interests of token investors with the founders of the projects. And the solution that I propose in the book is something that I call a distributed ICO. I believe that the model of using cryptocurrencies and using the blockchain to fundraise for projects is an exciting, it's a proposition. It is a whole new way to allocate resources to really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
cool projects. You know, the truth is VC capital is a gentleman's club. You know, it is. I mean, you have to know people. You have to be in the circuit. You have to, you could, if you're, if you're a bright guy in, in the middle of Kansas somewhere, the odds of a big venture capital investing in your startup are next to nil because you're not in the right place. You don't know the right people, and it's an uphill battle. And blockchain, the ICO concept, definitely opened the door to projects to be funded that would probably never have gotten money. Maybe too many of them. We could laugh about that. That maybe it would have been a better idea if they hadn't. But I think that by creating a model which is built around the smart contract that doesn't give the project all of its money up front. Instead, it allows the project to raise money over time in quarterly chunks as it delivers on promises that it makes to the people who buy the tokens. Is an excellent model for the next phase of using the blockchain to fundraise for cryptopreneurs. A cryptopreneur in the sense of being a solid business person who wants to leverage the blockchain. And that's what a distributed ICO would do. And all it requires is that at the end of each quarter, the token holders would vote on one simple question. And that question is, should the project continue? Should the project continue? If the majority says yes, then the project gets the next round of funding that has been raised, and it sets its goals for the next quarter, and it keeps going. This has a lot of advantages. First of all, it doesn't give the projects a whole boatload of money up front that they don't need. Okay, it requires that takes and that does two things that are really important. One, it sends the scammers running for the hills because they're not interested. They know they're not going to get their Lambo to the easy way to the Lambo. So they're not interested in doing it that way. But the second thing is it makes life so much easier for the founders. Having lived through big ICOs and running big ICOs, I know how hard it is. I know how complicated it is to build a community with 20,000, 50,000 people in it and try and, it's herding cats. It's trying to build a humongous global movement almost from scratch. It takes resources. It takes tons of effort. It takes lots of good luck, and it basically consumes all the efforts of the people in the project for a considerable amount of time. So, that's not what a founder of a promising project needs either. They need to be focused on delivering on their promises. So if they can be raising funds from a much smaller group of people because they don't need that much money, that makes it better for them. It makes the scammers run away. And it also gives the people getting into the project the security that they're not, there's accountability. There's a plan. There's stated goals for each quarter. There's stated promises. Sure, there's a vested interest there to say yes. Of course, everybody would want their projects, if they're reasonably successful, to continue. I mean, but there's a vetting process there. There's a process there where it forces those interests to be in alignment. It forces the founders' interests to be in alignment with the token holders and with the other stakeholders. And I think that is an amazing model to really get this industry going in the right direction. Because if you can't, get a small group of enthusiastic supporters to, invest in your project on a smaller scale, and then commit yourself to doing the hard work, to making milestones every quarter and meeting those milestones, then you probably don't deserve to be running a startup yet. You probably should be working for somebody else still.
Right. I think you're right on the money there with everything you said. I think you really summed it up really well. To kind of go back to different ways to fund these projects and everything, there are a few that have been able to do that fairly well. Like take Cardano, for example, through IOHK and Charles Hoskinson. They've done a great job raising money early on, taking the project slowly, having funds dispersed slowly over time to pay for development so that they can finish developing the Cardano project. And I think models like that are a lot of these projects need to take on. They need to embrace the ability to properly distribute funds over a given period of time to allow proper development. And I think you get too many projects that push way too fast to grow, especially the decentralized projects like Tron, for example, that are just marketing like crazy, EOS marketing like crazy and trying to get out there. But development is much slower well, they're moving faster and not developing as much versus projects like Cardano that are doing the opposite. And there's a huge deficiency of that for sure in the industry, but it's also exciting to see where these smart contracts can take us even outside of just organizing these projects. Because when you get into tokenization and you get into the ability to tokenize just about anything you can think of in business and everyday life in any kind of industry, there's so many different applications for this stuff. And I really think we're just scratching the surface, especially with how young this market is.
You're so right there. I totally agree. Yeah, I think I was just thinking when you said that, the phrase that was in my head before you said it was, we're scratching the surface. There's so much promise for using these technologies to solve problems that make people's lives better. I'm all for technology to grow and get better. That's awesome. There's no doubt about it. But if your only goal of your project is transactions per second, or something like that, or a new consensus algorithm, well, you're going to have a hard time, getting very many people in the real world excited about it. But when you're solving real problems, when you're making life easier for real people, that's where this industry is going to take off. And I think that's the real focus that we need to have.
Absolutely. And I think there's even a bigger impact on countries that are far less developed than first world countries, and what this technology can help do to elevate different groups of people in different places and in different cultures. And it's just, in terms of humanity, blockchain is a fantastic technology. And I'm sure you agree with me in how exciting its future is. One of the things that worries me, though, when you look at the cryptocurrency side of the industry, just in general, there's a lot of greed, there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of people doing malicious things. In your opinion, do you think that crypto in a way has kind of hurt the image of what blockchain is, or do you think people can see through that?
Well, there's no doubt about it that as an industry, we've got a reputation problem. Anybody who says anything else is full of it, because when you read the headlines and you see ransomware and you see pump and dump and you see all of these terms coming out, of course there's a problem, and a lot of it is maybe just because it's a new emerging market, and that happens because human nature is that way, and it attracts some, always, there's shady people out there. There's no doubt about it. But I think that the real key here is the focus. And that's where the danger is. We can't necessarily eliminate, we're not going to change human nature. We're not going to make it a perfect world where there aren't bad people doing bad stuff out there. But we can definitely, as an industry, change where we put the spotlight and where we focus our energies. And that's why I was saying, if our energies are only focused on that aspect of this industry, which is the speculative trader mentality of, can this token go up 10%, 20% in the next week, and I can sell at the top and buy at the bottom and play the market. All of that is great when it's auxiliary, when it is a residual thing. That happens in all financial markets. But the difference is that if you look at manufacturing, or you look at, pretty much any market out there, commodities, whatever it is, there's also a purpose behind it. People speculate on the price of soybeans, but they still use soybeans to eat, to make food, for a gazillion, real uses in the real world. And we just need to be sure that the solutions that we're providing people with the blockchain are actually having intrinsic value in the real world. And when we do that, then the speculative trader part will, I think that'll fix itself.
Yeah, I really do hope it kind of self-corrects in a lot of ways. And I think it will over time. I mean, we're just starting to again scratch the surface, and especially with like regulations and how we want to use this technology. Do we want to go in a decentralized direction? Do we want to go in a centralized direction? Do we want a little bit of both? At the same time, right? And
Great
at the same
questions, yeah.
time, how will blockchain ultimately be used? I mean, there's plenty of people out there that are very smart that believe that blockchain could be used for terrible, terrible intentions to control society. At the same time, blockchain has a way to liberate us from the control of society. So it's one of those.
Are we going to change one master for the other,
Yeah,
right?
maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's one of those interesting technologies that is going to really, in my opinion, fundamentally change the way we use the internet and the way that we're all connected and interact with each other. I don't know. It could be either very, very good or very, very bad in the end. I mean, we're in a very crazy world right now.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, I think like any technology is probably has these issues. I mean, look at bioengineering, or look at nanotechnologies, or look at artificial intelligence. All these emerging technologies have that dark side to them as well, and there are obviously there are ways of abusing them. So I don't think it's the technology necessarily. I mean, it all boils down to the people. Businesses. I always say business is a team sport. It's done between people, and technology is just a tool. So I think that the benefits are definitely there for society from blockchain technology, as long as we collectively, you know, are sensible enough not to jump into, these strange dystopian, post-apocalyptic kind of scenarios where, unfortunately, our industry is a little bit, in love with these kind of crazy
Mhm.
ideas. And I don't think we need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? I mean, we don't need a world that doesn't have laws. We just need to, I don't think anybody's really going to be seriously wanting an anarchistic, future based on, this extreme decentralization. I don't see that happening. I think that we would be all a lot better off if we were focused on how can we get this technology and use it and get it to the point where grandma is comfortably using blockchain technology even if she doesn't know it.
Right. And I generally lean towards blockchain being a good thing that's going to help liberate people even more in the world. I mean, there's places in the world like China, for example, where the citizens, in a lot of ways, willingly give up certain liberties so that they can have certain advancements in technology and certain things that make their life better. And giving up some of those liberties means giving up some privacy, giving up sovereignty that you would have or the freedoms you would have in America.
Or that we like to think that we have.
Sure. Or yeah, we'd like to think.
Yeah, because I don't know. Lately, we have to be a little bit careful about what we really have and what we like to think that we have.
Sure. And I never get into politics. It gets a little too polarizing. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on all over the world in both
Definitely
ways.
agree.
But
Yeah.
in terms of where blockchain's going, when you look at it and when you look at the development and even the issues that it has, do you think that our world, are we moving towards a decentralized world, a centralized world, or maybe a little bit of both?
I have a feeling that it's a little bit of both, and I think that's probably the best alternative. I think that if you take a step back and you look on a broader scale, sort of on a more historical scale, I think that even from the 1950s moving forward, there's a clear trend to move from the large monolithic corporate structures, the huge corporations, towards, the internet opened the door to the little guy. It opened the door that anybody can be a publisher. Anybody can have a way of expressing themselves and reaching a massive audience. And if you look at it from that perspective, the blockchain is an extension of that. It's the ability for smaller organizations to have a bigger impact in the world and to reduce the power of big centralized structures that maybe aren't as useful as they were at one point. Call them corporations, call them religions, call them governments. I think that there's a lot of this in flux. So I think the overall trend is towards empowering the individual and empowering the smaller groups against the power of big structures that have traditionally governed society. But I don't think that that necessarily means that we have to go towards a completely decentralized model where everything is I don't think we need to be purists about it. I think that there's definitely room for KYC procedures. There's definitely room for actually being able to know that who you're talking to on the other side of it. I think those kinds of questions are important. I don't think that we need to be so picky about being completely decentralized that we make life unbearable for everyone.
Absolutely. I totally agree with all that. So your book, Behold the Cryptopreneurs, when is it coming out? Where can people buy it? And what's the general back cover summary for the book when they pick it up?
Cool. Well, the book is out now. It's on Amazon, so you can get it in paperback. You can get it in Kindle version. You can get the first 4 chapters for free if you go to cryptopreneurs.club. We'll talk about that at the end, maybe. But the book is basically it's a scream in the night, if you will, towards solving these problems we've been talking about, and solving the problem of really taking, is saying, hey, we have this enormous, beautiful opportunity with this technology that is so revolutionary and so powerful, and we're squandering it by not focusing on actually delivering on the true potential. And then I just dig into some really practical, ways of making that better. How can we learn from people like Henry Ford or from McDonald's hamburgers, and apply those lessons to the blockchain, into our blockchain startups? How can we, what the value of having a few more crypto geezers out there, like I tongue-in-cheek call myself in the book. We need some people with a few more years working in some of these projects so that they know, they learn the skills, and they have the skills on board to actually be able to make good on what they on the dreams that they have, on the visions they have for that they want to make in the real world. But these things don't happen just because you have a magic wand and you say blockchain and suddenly it works. The real world isn't that way. You've got to do a lot of hard work. You've got to roll your sleeves up. You've got to, sales and marketing are important. You've got to tell your story, but you can't just tell your story from a nerdy tech engineer point of view and think, oh, well, everybody's going to fall in love with my latest, new consensus algorithm. Oh, come on, nobody's going to, when's the last time that somebody, jumped up on their feet applauding a consensus algorithm? And I'm not saying they're not important, but that's not what moves people. You've got to make people, the hair on the back of your arms stand up. You've got to give people something they can believe in that really convinces them that this is a viable future. And I think when we do that, we're talking about a message of hope. We're talking about a message of true promise towards a future that's better than where we are right now. And I think that's what, that's a little bit about what the book's about. It's about how do we get there? How do we get from right now a market, an industry that's totally focused on traders and in a small little group. I mean, think about it right now, Brandon. I mean, our industry is really tiny. I mean, Yeah, what maybe stretching at the most, maybe there's 30 million people that know a little bit about
Mhm.
blockchain and crypto in the world. That's stretching it. I mean, there's a hell of a lot more people out there. What about the other, 6.5 billion of us, that are out there? Why don't we take that technology and take these stories to them? Why don't we make their lives better? What would what's the average portfolio going to be worth when that happens? When everybody's benefiting from the technology? And that's the idea. That's what we really need to be saying to the world and saying to ourselves. Let's quit staring at our belly buttons and let's build the industry that we all know we're
Absolutely.
capable
I'll
of
tell you what,
building.
I'm very excited to get a hold of your book and start reading it because I like to read. um, and it sounds awesome. You definitely sold me on it for sure. If there's anything that you wanted to bring up or discuss, maybe about your book or something you have going on that you want people to be aware of, we'll kind of open up the virtual fake floor for you to go ahead and lay out whatever you'd like.
Well, thank you. Well, no, just I would say anybody interested, I'd really love for people to go to Amazon, grab a copy of the book. Leave me some feedback there. That would be really awesome. Anybody who's just a little bit on the fence, go to cryptopreneurs.club. You'll get the first 4 chapters totally free just for signing up. Then I'll send you awesome emails that you really like, and if you don't, you can unsubscribe. That's cool too. And I think that it's just time. I think that this is the time for us to really, we had the big boom in 2017 with the ICOs. We've learned a bunch of lessons. Now it's time for us to really, get to work, build this industry into what it can be, and let's have some fun doing it, and let's make the world a better place.
Awesome. Do you have any social media? Do you have a Twitter?
Yeah, you can find me at Dennis H. Lewis. That's me on Twitter. You can on LinkedIn, Dennis H. Lewis. So yeah, I'm easy to find. Definitely on cryptopreneurs.club or look for Greenlight Digital or ICO Success. Those are 2 websites. We're there too.
Very cool. Dennis, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. You have great ideas. You have an awesome perspective. I'm very excited about the book and really look forward to digging into that and kind of seeing how, from your perspective, how you see this industry, how you see it changing, how you see the issues. And I think from this podcast alone, I think a lot of people will get a good understanding of how you think and what your book's about. And in general, a lot of great info. It was a great discussion. So again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandon, for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.